So the key outcome today is to support you with your daily practice, or developing a daily practice, or thinking about how you use a daily practice, or how to get enthusiastic about a daily practice. And as we've said in previous sessions in this course, if you're aligned with yourself, if you're connected with yourself, you're much more likely to be in the flow. And if you're much more likely to be in the flow, you're more likely to relate better, to make better decisions, to be more successful. There's quite a lot of research that supports this. And then we can go out into life soulfully, body, emotion, mind and spirit, all connected together, rather than just rushing from our ego mind, rushing from our heads. So I'm going to have you go straight back into small groups, because I want to ask you the following questions, which I shall show you. So here are the questions, and I will put a link into chat with these questions available to you. How is your creative mind or other meditation practice? When we don't just have to sell one brand of meditation. The creative mind meditation is a great formula, a great structure for psychological and spiritual meditation practice, but particularly psychologically orientated meditation practice. But you may have something that you do that works really well for you. So how are you doing with your practice? And how often do you do it? I think that's really an important question. Are you someone who does it once in a while, or do you have a habit around it? I plan to do my daily practice. I always say 6 times a week, not 7 times a week, because that always gives me one day when I want to stay in bed, or I've got to get up early, or I've got to rush somewhere. And I think the other thing about a daily practice is that you can do 2 minutes, you can do 5 minutes. So if you create a habit of 2 minutes, then when you've got more time, you might do 15 minutes or 30 minutes. But creating a habit where you don't have to think about what you do next in the morning is a really powerful way of ensuring that your creative mind practice is a part of your daily schedule. But some of you may only do it 3 times a week, or at the weekend. That's how often you do it is really up to you. I'm just wanting to encourage you to develop your practice. And for me, one of the things that really supports it is to make my practice enjoyable. So if you think that the only reason for doing a psychological meditation practice is to deal with difficult feelings, you may not feel very motivated all the time. You may feel, oh God, do I want to feel my feelings again? So the part about resources is so important. The sense of the resources, and really having gorgeous resources, the smell of the sea, the feeling of the warmth of the Aegean Ocean, or whatever it is that, for you, eating your favorite food, your most powerful and beautiful experiences in nature, being mentored by the wise grandmother or the friend or the teacher. All of those things are so powerful. I meet with two Buddhas. Tibetan Buddhism has lots of different Buddhas. I meet with them every day. That's a great thing for me. So how can you make it more enjoyable? And what is it you want to improve? Perhaps there's some aspect that you have difficulty with, or you want to learn more about. And so then I'll have you put the questions in the chat, because then I can answer a lot of questions, or we may see that the questions clump together. So I'm going to have you go into small groups, and I'm going to give you 25 minutes in total. And so that's in the groups of 4, 5 minutes per person to answer those questions. And in the groups of 3, 6 minutes per person. I will do the timing for the groups of 4. And let me just make sure that you've got the link to the questions in the chat. So let me just do that. And I think, here we are. So for those of you who can do 2 things at once, if just one of you in the group has the questions, that's helpful. And not all of you need to have it if you have, technological reasons why you can't get it easily. But I'm now going to put you into breakout rooms to answer those questions. So how are you doing with your creative mind practice, your psychological meditation practice? Have you got any questions or support that you need? Something that you want me to answer? Perhaps not. Perhaps the work that Selene and I have done is so clear that you're completely on track and you know exactly where you're heading. And that would be great. I would love that. So, but I just wanted to give a chance. I thought there might be quite a lot of questions, so perhaps there aren't. That's why I thought we'd put them into chat. So yeah, it looks like there are very few questions. Okay, so in my group, Marina says, we talked about having tons of ideas, but because some of us are in the shielding group, can't do them, so tend to stay with quality for today. Well, actually, staying with quality for today is a wonderful thing. I think lockdown was, for some people who took advantage of it, it was a chance for retreat, to really come to terms with the most important things in life. And if you are shielding, if you aren't getting as much external contact as you can, could you take more time to sit in the garden? I moved house in January and from a really beautiful flat overlooking some lakes. But I moved to a place with a luxurious garden, and I've been sitting in the garden every day, even in cold weather, and just really feeling nature. So I really, you know, if you're in shielding, bide your time, build your inner resources, develop your inner resources, and that will really help you for after shielding. The other thing to do is to be really careful about keeping the contacts and the connections with people that that were your friends before lockdown, because there's a tendency, if we don't see people, not to be in contact with them. And there is, I can't quite remember the details of the research, but there's some research about if you don't have contact with people, you're less likely to pick up the contact again later. So really, we have to make a little bit of an effort to think about who are the people that I need to stay connected to. And you could do that in your meditation, stay connected to them in your meditation, but you could also get on the phone, get on Skype, make a little bit, take a little bit of initiative more than you might normally. Okay, so there's a recommendation about a book, but I don't know anything about that book. How often do you practice spiritual level of development? So my personal practice is that I start with sort of Vipassana type of meditation, just watching. So there are two forms of meditation. There's psychological and there's spiritual. So psychological meditation is when I have an intention and when I access resources and I apply those resources to in aligning myself more fully and enhancing the quality of my life. The pure spiritual meditation is simply to watch the nature of awareness itself. So, when we do that sort of mindfulness meditation, which in fact my 4-3-2-1 meditation is a mindfulness meditation. When we do that sort of mindfulness meditation, we notice what we see, we notice what we hear, we pay attention to what we feel. That brings us right into the present moment. So that's really a powerful thing, because the present moment is a portal to another world, if you like, which is a world which is beyond the past, and the past and the future don't exist. In the present moment, in mindfulness, if you're really paying attention to the present moment, the past and the future can disappear, and therefore all your problems from the past, all your psychological patterns, all the cause and effect in your life, all the stuff about where you want to go and who you want to be, all of that can disappear through the portal of the present moment. But there's one step beyond, well, there are several steps beyond that, but there's an important step beyond just paying attention to the senses. And that step is to start being to be curious about awareness itself. So where do the images, if I use a sort of neurological type of metaphor, where do the images arrive in your brain? Can you sort of go back, not to look at the object that you're looking at outside of yourself, but to try and feel inside your brain where the images arrive? Or when you're listening to sound, not to pay attention not just to the sound itself, but where does that sound arrive in your consciousness? And the same with feeling. Where does all of this arrive? So you're pulling back from over-involvement in the sensation itself. You're just observing consciousness itself, awareness itself. And so when you do that, there's two really interesting things that are going on. First, that as you settle, you'll notice that your attention jumps around. I'm feeling my knee, I'm feeling my heart, I'm hearing a sound, I'm hearing my voice. Attention jumps around between all these different parts of experience. But then behind that it's like a mirror. The mirror is often a description for it. There's this luminous place in which all the things you see, all the things you hear, and all the things you feel arise. It's like the movie screen in the cinema. The movie screen itself is a blank screen, but all these things arrive on the movie screen. Or like a mirror. The mirror doesn't change, but the reflections in the mirror change. And so that's spiritual practice. That's a core spiritual practice. You could say there are two forms of spiritual practice. There's relational spiritual practice, where there is some archetypal form, God or a Buddha or a saint, or something that represents spirituality for you and that you're relating to that. So for example, that's relational practice. I'm having a relationship with the Buddha or a higher power or Jesus or Abraham or whoever it is that you're having that relationship with, Mother Earth, the goddess. And then there's the level beyond that, which is where everything is one, where there is no separation between you and source. So when you practice mindfulness, observing consciousness itself, there's you observing. That's where it starts. And then at some point, when you've got quite good at observing everything that arises in consciousness that stays a while and then disappears, when you've practiced that for a while, you say, oh, I'm really quite good at staying with this. And then you relax just a fraction, and then suddenly there's no you observing everything else. That's quite an advanced place. That's the place of the non-dual, where that's the mystical experience. That's when there's no separation between anything. You experience everything as one. So there's a sort of dualistic practice, you could say, spiritual practice. When I pray to a higher power, me separate from the higher power, but I have a relationship with it, and perhaps I receive blessings from it, and also getting really so present that there's a chance that everything just may become one. And the way it starts out is that you don't, as soon as you notice that everything's become one, the mind jumps in and says everything's become one. So you only get tiny little tastes of it, but after a while you know that if you practice mindfulness, you'll have that sort of experience. So in my daily practice, just to tell you, I start with as much as I can, with my busy wandering mind, settling down into my senses to observe what's arriving in awareness, what's arriving in consciousness itself. And I do that for quite a period of time, most days, until I'm really quite settled. And then after that, I then pray ask the blessing for some Buddhas, but it could be Jesus or Abraham or Moses or the goddess or whoever it is in your tradition, Shiva. But I quite like receiving blessings. So the way we talk about it in Tibetan Buddhism is that awareness itself projects a Buddha into the sky in front of me, and then that Buddha in the sky gives me the blessings. But it's all come from awareness itself. And at the end of the practice, you just dissolve it all back into awareness. So that's a long conversation. So now I've said a lot about that. So after that, then I'm feeling quite centered and feeling quite blessed. Then I say, hey, what do I need for today? Then I do the more psychological practice. You know, how do I want to be today? What's today going to be like? And then if I notice a little tightness in my breath, some sort of challenge, then I might sort of invite in resources, invite in support, call on my community of saints, my community of sponsors to support me, and then perhaps find a way of holding the feeling so that I'm supporting myself as I imagine myself going through the day. So, to summarize, I start with the sort of pure mindfulness practice. Then I do a little bit of relationship spirituality, relationship with higher power. Then I dissolve the higher power back into awareness itself, the non-dual. And then I do the psychological practice. And so I've been doing this for a long time, so that may sound complicated. But I think it's worth just knowing that there's meditation practice that is designed to support you as a human being in your life, which I call psychological practice. And there's practice designed to give you an experience of the oneness of everything. And there's some overlap between the two, because if I'm doing a presentation as a human being, my ego wants to do well, I can call on higher power I'd say, hey, this isn't my presentation, this is your presentation. Let me be a channel for you. So of course there is overlap between the two, but and of course, as one of the most powerful resources for your human life is, of course, your any spiritual archetypes that you can pray to, if you have something like that. By the way, you can be very, very, you can be very flexible about this. You can pray to the Big Bang. You can pray to the scale of the universe. You can pray to Mother Earth. You can pray to the stars. You can pray to, whoever you want to pray to. It's just what touches your heart. You don't have to follow any tradition. So I like to mix all the traditions up. So, I'll have, the founder of Tibetan Buddhism with his wife, and then I'll have Jesus and Mary Magdalene all hanging out together. Maybe I should, have, Abraham and some other folk hanging out. You can have, I think of them as being like a Premier League soccer team. They're all hanging out together. And you can call on anyone that you want to. So whatever speaks to your heart, you can call. So that was quite a long answer to that question. And so every day my rule is I'd like to practice meditation 6 days a week, because there's always a day when I want to sleep in or I have to get up early in the morning. No, don't ever make a commitment that you're going to break. Always try and only make a commitment that you'll keep. So you could say 5 days a week. It's sort of up to you. And the other rule, which I've mentioned to you, is that if necessary, I'll do a 3-minute meditation, because it's to keep the habit, just to keep developing that habit. And so Marina says, her question is, I'm an extrovert and like to travel. Well, yeah, that's, when are you going to travel? I'm traveling quite soon. So, get on a plane and travel. But also, sometimes circumstances in life are not completely suitable to our temperament. Like I'm a very social person. So, and lockdown, limited that to some degree. So can we stay with the inner feeling? Can we bring resources and support to that inner feeling? Sometimes we can't change the external circumstances, but can we bring loving support and kindness and generosity to the inner feeling? So, how much traveling can you do in your mind's eye? Can you take a journey across your garden in slow motion and notice every blade of grass during the course of that journey? What are ways that you can support yourself in that need and in that desire within yourself? What Barbara Armstrong asks, what are other super powerful resources can you suggest as we meet people who do not see obstacles as wonderful resources? I don't quite get that question. What are others?
I do. Julian, can I take it?
Sure, sure.
I can take that. I would love to take that question on.
Great, great.
Um, so one of the things that I think is important to remember is that we're not missionaries. So when we meet up with other people, it's not about trying to convince them that our way of seeing obstacles is the right way and that they should also see it that way. I would say one of the biggest superpowers you can bring to someone who is really struggling with their obstacles is compassion. And rather than saying, "Oh, let's welcome your horrible obstacle," which might be really uncomfortable and make them feel very disconnected from us, the first thing we can do is listen and find the place in what's happening for them where we can have some empathy. So, I mean, often I think that the places where we'll struggle is someone who sees, who's busy, say, blaming others for their struggles. And I think that's one that we might struggle with because we're trying to not do that, you know. And how do you jump into someone who's going on and on about their coworker or something who's a horrible, horrible person and that everything that's going wrong in their situation is because of this other person? Where I might go with that is, what are the feelings that that person seems to be having? And can I bring some compassion to those? So instead of getting all involved in their story about it, I'm going to go for, it sounds like you're really unhappy with what's happening there. It sounds like you're having a lot of feelings and this is being very hard for you. So I don't have to go into the story in order to have a heart-to-heart connection with this other person. And I can maybe ease my way into the idea that, you know, I wonder if there's anything that, you know, given that you can't control the situation outside of yourself here, I wonder if there's anything that you can work with in your own position in this struggle that might be helpful for you. Where are your resources? I might go for. What can I do to help that person turn their attention back into how can they navigate this in a way that is self-caring and that's compassionate and that isn't just about that person, that world, situation, whatever it is horrible and wrong, and I'm going to suffer because I can't change it, to what can I do in the moment that I have here with what I have available to me, and what resources are there? And I can do that with someone in a gentle way without pushing it in their face in a way that feels disruptive or not compassionate. So compassion, I think, is the piece I would bring to that most deeply.
Beautiful, Selene. And if there are any other questions, Selene and I didn't talk before this session. So Selene, I am inviting you to come in as much as you want to. So that would be good. So look at any of the other questions that you want to comment on. And also think about if you want to do something in the meditation as well, which we'll come to in a few minutes' time. Prakash says, how can we be more patient with the daily practice and give it time? So that's such an important thing that particularly if you're not very experienced with doing these sorts of meditations, the psychological meditation or the spiritual meditation, or just getting into a generative state, just getting body, emotion, mind and spirit lined up, then that will feel unfamiliar. And you'll practice meditation and then you'll be chatting away to yourself and thinking about your day and this and that. And that's a normal process. The mind, one of the first things you discover in meditation is how chatty the mind can be. You just have to be really curious and interested and say, wow, I never quite noticed how much this mind likes to chat. So we have to just be very interested in this. Okay, so here's this. I know something about you that you may or may not know. You are a strange creature. I'm speaking to you personally. We're all strange creatures. So become interested in this strange creature rather than, woe is me, I'm so, terrible in my life and da 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 and wish I was different. But wow, look at this amazing work of art that is a sort of, that is very complex but yet magnificent, and just be really curious about the particular magnificence that you are. And when you meditate, it becomes more apparent. You suddenly find your anxieties there, or you find you're chatting about something that you'd rather not think about. So that's a key part about the patience. Just be really curious. I promise you, if you do a lot of sitting, it'll all settle down over time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, how can I motivate myself to do daily practice? I know what to do, but I don't do it. Well, I would just make it juicy. I have really gorgeous relationships with some of my resources, and I love to visit with them. I have a really great time, and it could, for me, Padmasambhava. Yeshe Sogyal, who's the wife of Padmasambhava, she's a mother, she's sexy, she's powerful, she's your sister, she's got a twinkle in her eye. I have a great time with her. But for you it might be, so there might be some form or figure or like that, or relate your pet dog, or Gandalf, or someone from Lord of the Rings, or it might be a memory of when you managed to get 2 weeks on a beach, and you can just remember lying on the beach, listening to the sound of the waves, and you've got the smell of the salt air, the seawater in your nose, and you're so relaxed that you're awake but half asleep, or at the top of a mountain, or any other moment in your life. So go and visit, as resources, beautiful moments of your life when you really had body-mind connection. At school we're told not to daydream, but here we're telling you to daydream. So find those beautiful moments where you've really got that inner connection. And basically spend some time. That there are two things that can happen. So the first is spend some time feeling body-mind joy. And secondly, there may be emotional stuff that comes up in your body, difficult feelings that you've been avoiding by listening to pop music or YouTube or whatever, that you've been avoiding but actually need some loving attention. So if you've got a difficult feeling, bringing love to it for 20 minutes will help change it. Just saying, I see you, I hear you, I get you, I'll stay with you for a while, will change it. So sometimes, I don't want to say it's like going to the dentist, although of course I just have said it can be like that. But sometimes there's a feeling I really want to avoid, and I could just space out YouTube. I can do YouTube for hours, to avoid a feeling. But actually, I'd like to come and just really spend some time with this painful feeling, bring it love and attention, bring my wise adult mind, my warm, tender heart. All the people who love me can surround me and be with me while I feel this feeling. Actually, I will feel a lot better at the end of it. So, but just, so make, as much as you can, make it pleasurable to start with, except that sometimes if you've got difficult feelings, the best way to change the feeling is to stay with the feeling. Great. So 2 types of daily practice. This is a really nice question from Adrienne, which is, in our groups, we talked about 2 types of daily practice. One where we pause in our day on a regular basis to do the practice, and one where the daily practice is merged into our actions. So in sort of Buddhism, they call it post-meditation, that the purpose of sitting on a cushion or a chair and doing your meditation practice is to be mindful during the rest of your day. or you could say to have your resources available. So you sit on your chair and you access your resources and you get into the present moment. And then when you walk out the door, take your resources with you. When you go to the meeting, have your resources there. You know, I'd like to have. Sometimes I'm at a meeting and one of my resources will appear in the room to me, but to no one else. It's sort of a positive hallucination. I'm not, I'm not psychotic, or at least I don't think I am. But I'd like to have, a mentor appear in the room when I'm in a difficult meeting. So take your resources with you. But in terms of mindfulness practice, I have beautiful trees in my street. If I'm not rushed and I'm walking to the shop and I notice the trees and I notice the air and I notice the sky and I notice these strange creatures called human beings who are also on the same street as me. And then there's a dog that gives me a smile. The walk to the shop can be a really beautiful resourcing experience. Or even driving, or whatever it is you have to do. If you've got enough time and you're relaxed enough, you're not rushed to do mindfulness, as you go about the everyday activities, they'll be a lot more pleasurable. How can we overcome body blockages and space for clients? So that sounds like two questions. So that's deep work. If you're really working with physical, emotional difficulty, the short answer is bring loving attention to that. They're not to be overcome, they're to be welcomed. Imagine that the love of your heart is like honey and it drips down through the bodily blockage, or it comes in through your crown of your head. Prakash, what do you mean by space for clients?
No, this was a question from somebody from my group who was saying, they do a lot of qigong and they have these body blockages, and when they are with the clients, how can they create more space for them?
Well, that still sounds like two questions, but I mean, so if you've got bodily blockages that don't work in your, you find it hard to shift in your one-to-one meditation. Go and see if you persuade Selene to do a session with you where a third, another person guides you. Because even though it's great to meditate on our own, we're also relationship creatures, and sometimes I need somebody else with a big heart to hold the space for a difficult place in myself while I'm learning to love that place in myself. And so sometimes the best thing to do is to work with another person. And so if you're a creative mind person or a life talent person, go and contact one of your buddies and do a paired exercise with them. There's nobody in the world who does this all on their own. And it's not even healthy. It's not even healthy to do it all on your own. Sometimes we need to share our broken, vulnerable heart, our shame, our difficulty with someone else. And then we suddenly find it wasn't so shameful after all once we've shared it, because they say, oh yeah, I know that. And Marina asked, does your support give you advice? It's totally up to you. Guess what? It's inside you. So I love to talk. I love to ask for advice. The only thing I would say is that go deep enough so it isn't just your ego mind pretending to be, your advisor, but go deep enough where you're really feeling that supporter and that you can really get sort of deeper level of advice. It's not like, George Bush saying, God told me to go to war in Iraq. Well, perhaps that wasn't God talking. Great guidance, Selene, and such good reminders about not getting caught up in the story, theirs or mine. So that's a nice message from Charisse. Great. So let's do a meditation. Selene, do you want to lead it, or shall I lead it, or should we do it together? You're on mute, actually.
Yeah, I think you should. This is your series, and it's coming to an end. I mean, if you'd like, I can jump in and do things with you. We could try that.
Yeah, feel free to jump in. I'll mosey along. Um, it actually reminds me of, it's a sort of classical thing, you know, that trainers used to do, which was, you know, you'd have two trainers and they'd both each do a sentence each in a deep meditation. And we haven't rehearsed this. We haven't even talked about it till right now. So who, you know, whether or not Selene jumps in and whether or not it works is another totally different question. I remember once I used to make guided meditation audios for myself. And then I thought, this is really cool. I'll make it a double induction with my own voice. So I had two Julians, and that was really brilliant. I used to do that. It was really a lot of fun, you know. And actually surprisingly worked surprisingly well, even though, you know, I'd recorded it. I was quite surprised by, you know, how deep I would go listening to these two Julians. You know, maybe it's just because I got a big ego and I like listening to the sound of my own voice. But, you know, it was fun. So anyway, so let's do the 4-3-2-1 meditation that I do a lot, simply because that basic practice of paying attention to the senses works for most people. And if you have a better way of deeply connecting with yourself, then feel free to sort of tune my voice out and do your own way of getting into the generative state, the body-mind connected state, the body-mind, emotion and spirit connected state. I think it's a useful thing in meditations to use the person who's leading it as a guide, but if they're going too fast or they're not doing it quite right for you, you can just put their voice a little bit into the background while you do your own inner process. The voice on the outside is there to support you in your inner process. So at the beginning, I always just pause. I just notice all my senses. I make myself comfortable. I settle myself down. I get a good posture. I could sit or I could lie. Mainly I sit. It helps me keep a level of awareness. And then it's great to notice 4 things that you can see. And a really useful tip is to focus on one point in front of you if your eyes are open, and then soften into peripheral vision so that you can see 4 things without moving your eyes from the point that you're focused on. Just extending into peripheral vision will take you into a more deeply connected place with yourself. And then I say listen to 4 things, but actually at this step I listen to more than 4 things. I like to listen outside the window, extend my awareness outside the window. And if you hear sound or no sound, you can still listen. Then I like to listen for house sounds. Then I can listen for room sounds. Then I listen in my body, bodily sounds. And then I like to listen to the radio station, the internal dialogue. What's it saying? I can be curious about it. Sometimes it's just planning, or sometimes it's commenting. Sometimes it's a voice that's really an expression of a feeling in the body. But since I can hear all these other sounds, And all the things I see, I'm much more than this voice. This voice is only a part of me. And I can be compassionate and curious about this voice. And then 4 things you feel. And another tip, of course, is noticing sensations on your skin, or a sensation on your skin, whether it's clothing or air temperature or something else. Noticing a muscle or muscles. And of course, any emotional feeling in the trunk of your body, in your viscera, your belly or your heart or your throat. And then, whether your eyes are opened or closed, three things you see. If your eyes are closed, you can see in your mind's eye. And three things you hear. And three different feelings. And two things you see. And two things you hear. And two things you feel. One thing you see. One thing you hear. One thing you feel. And then I like to just put my attention on my breathing and the fine detail of a whole cycle of in-breath and out-breath. Just a place to put my attention. There's so much that happens in a single cycle of breath. And I wonder how you want to deepen your meditation practice, your daily practice or your weekly practice. Or I wonder how life wants you to deepen your meditation practice. And I wonder if there's a gesture that symbolizes that. If there's an image or a movie, or some words. What would it look like? What would it sound like?
How would it move?
How would it feel? Moving can be really helpful. And I'm curious about resources that will support you, that come to mind.
How to hold that question, that invitation for the resources to come as they do.
To be patient, curious, just paying attention to the present moment and noticing what arises.
It may arise in your body, in movement, shift in your breath, a memory, an image.
Sometimes even the smell of a place. And since we've been talking about creative mind, maybe you have people from your community or aspects of nature or something you call spirit. Or your ancestors, or everybody's ancestors. And I think of the goddess and wonder what Selene has to say about her.
There are many forms that our sense of divinity takes. And sometimes you may hear the voice of nature, sound of ocean, sense of mountain speaking to us. Words, phrases, just a sense of feeling of a message that's for us from someplace beyond our own sense of identity. Maybe that comes in a form we can see. Something beyond ourselves. to hold
Amazing,
us
amazing grace. How sweet
within
the sound.
sound, around and within. Sweet sound.
Maybe luminosity. Maybe particles of light.
Radiant, surrounding us, within us. And all the ways that our being connects to what is beyond.
Perhaps there might be a feeling arising in your body of radiance, warmth.
Breathing that in, breathing it out, coming through you.
And as you consider how your practice might deepen, perhaps something comes up that shortens your breath or worries you, or that needs to be held in this bigger space. Is there anything that needs to be held in the luminosity, sweet sound, the movement of being?
Inviting that in.
Whatever's going on for you is welcome. Everything is welcome in the bigger space.
And there's room to move with it, dance with it, sing with it.
Dancing, singing, receiving blessings from all your resources. From all the beings that support you, including yourself. Or simply the feeling of being supported, whether it's lying in the grass on a warm summer's day, or in the arms of the ocean, or some other place that holds you, some other way that holds you.
Whatever comes to you, whatever holds you, whatever nourishes you.
And noticing these new relationships in yourself, in your world, in your inner world. In your inner world that includes the outer world. I wonder how this support is developing. And how this support might continue to develop during the minutes, hours, days that come.
Finding those connections and resources are there for you in each moment, not just when you're inviting them. But in the moments you most need them, just there, under the surface, supporting you.
Available when you meditate and also when you're just wandering around in your day. Perhaps even surprising you when they arrive, when they say hello. What if resources come of their own accord and bless you without you having to do anything whatsoever? Just allowing creative mind, creative soul,
Creative life,
creative life. Creative life has seasons. The bareness of winter, the seeding of spring and the flourishing of summer, and the letting go of the unnecessary of autumn. And they all happen naturally. That's life, creative life.
working on so many levels, conscious and unconscious. There are those times we attend to them directly.
And
those times
we attend to them indirectly, and times when they attend to us of their own accord.
And we find ourselves touched and held. Maybe you have a memory of a time when you felt that sense of grace flow. It's right here with you now.
And how all of this can support your growing daily practice. How your daily practice or weekly practice, your practice supports all of this. How all of this supports your practice, and your practice supports all of this.
Each time you come back to yourself, to that connection, it's stronger. Each time creates another reverberation. Practice makes it easier to find your way each time.
And knowing that this process will continue. Slowly begin to orientate yourself back to the screen while staying deeply connected in yourself.
You might breathe a little more deeply into your body, into muscles and skin, feeling your breath bring you back to awareness outside your body at the same time that you're aware of what's inside. Your breath can bring a little more energy in, a little more movement. Maybe a stretch, maybe a touch.
And yet we're going to keep deeply connected with ourselves as we go into small groups, just to share how this was for us. So that's finding the place where you're still deeply connected with yourself, yet also available to share your heart, your experience of this with a small group of people for a short amount of time. So we're going to go into groups of 3, and it's going to be 3 minutes per person, just to share, how was this for you? How was this for you? What do you want to develop in the future? How was this for you, and what do you want to develop in the future? 3 minutes per person, groups of 3. I'll do the timing, and Selene, no need for you to go into a group, if you just stay
I'll
out.
stay here with you.
And so all the rooms are open now. How was it for you? Go on, Clive.
I see, Clive. You have to unmute.
You have to unmute, Clive, that's right.
Is that better? Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Had the feeling of a space between me and the real world, and because, and I got the image of a blister, a blister forms to protect you and to allow you to heal. So it's a safe space between you and the outside world, and that was quite comforting.
Maybe the inner world is the real world.
We could go on. Yeah, but it was obviously the feeling came first, and then the sort of internalization of it came afterwards. But that felt fine.
Beautiful.
A safe space doing a job of healing.
Really a beautiful metaphor for your healing journey, Clive.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What else? Let's hear some other people sharing. You can just unmute and speak, or you can put your hand up, whichever you prefer. Go on, Laura. Laura, that's great. Thanks for being great.
Well, during the meditation, well, I have no idea what you said. It was like beautiful cradling of voices. And the spirit of my neighborhood appeared. No specific shape, but it started talking to me. It was very nice because I had thought about it, but I had never felt real connection with the spirit of. I live in a very small neighborhood in Buenos Aires, and the spirit told me that I could have walking meditations, and it said it would be very nice if your feet blessed the ground during your walking meditations. And I said, great. So now when we finish, I'm going to do my walking meditation in my neighborhood, in my area. Beautiful. And connect with the spirit of the land.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Such a strong recommendation. Do your meditation in nature. Go and walk into nature, and you've got the inner resources, and you've got the outer resources, the trees and the natural world. Really up close and personal. Yeah. It's beautiful. Who else? Did anybody have a difficult experience? If they had a difficult experience, now is a good moment to mention it.
Yeah, for me, Julian.
Prakash.
Yeah, I usually sort of trance in and out, and I don't usually remember anything, But when I come out, I think I come out really relaxed and calm, and so that's wonderful. But one request I have is that you mentioned your own daily practice, I was wondering if there will be an opportunity for you to take us through that process so that we can feel what it's like to have, the processes you go through.
That's an interesting idea. I will think about that, Prakash. It's a really lovely idea. Gianrico.
Yeah, I had a difficult circumstance here. The context was very noisy. I went out the room to get some wireless LAN, but it doesn't work. So I'm here outside, and was a lot of people around. But anyhow, it works.
Great.
Not in a deep trance, but it works. It's very efficient, very efficient.
Yes.
So I think for the circumstance was excellent.
Yeah.
But the circumstance was very bad. Yeah.
We can actually learn to do this anywhere. You know, I do this on a bus. You know, I can do it anywhere. But of course, I'll have my little guardians making sure that if I'm out in the world, if I'm sitting in an airport, I'll have my security guys, my inner security guys, just keeping an eye on the world. So we go to the level that's appropriate for the circumstance that we're in. That's great, Enrico. Karina, you've got your hand up.
Actually, at first I want to say it worked beautiful, you and Selene together. I think that was in the meditation, it went deeper. And when you, all of a sudden, a sad feeling came up while meditating. And just in that time, one of you said, okay, just put it to the radiant light. And I really could experience how it dissolved by itself, just being there, because my first impulse was, I don't want to have it. I'm supposed to meditate. But when you said it, it was just the right moment. It just dissolved. I could put it in the radiant light and it dissolved. And that was a deep experience. Thank you for that.
Do you want to say anything, Selene? Otherwise, we're going to...
Oh, no, just that I think that is the essence of meditation. It's not that we're separating ourselves out from all the stuff out there, but rather finding a way to be present with it in a welcoming, open, radiant space. So that's lovely, Karina. Yeah.
Just to say that some people use meditation to avoid their feelings, but actually the creative mind approach and the embodied awareness approach is that we should bring it to the whole of ourselves, even if sometimes that means bringing love and attention to a difficult place in ourselves. It's so beautiful being with you all. Selene, thank you so much for doing last week. I really appreciated it. And it was such a gift. I didn't know you were coming today. And the fact that you came in with your question, with your answer to that question, and then we did that I so enjoyed that meditation with you. It was such fun.
Me too.
And I'm hoping to do more with you, Selene. So we'll see how that works out. And thank you so much for everybody who's been coming to these sessions. It's been great having you here. And let's unmute yourselves and say a word about how you're feeling right now. Our closing ritual. Oh, by the way, as Marina mentioned, there are not any Wednesday talks until I think the first Wednesday in October. I'm on holiday and then I'm going to teach in Greece, which is going to be a wonderful thing. I suppose I have to teach when I'm not swimming in the sea. But in the newsletter, you'll see that the next one and the next series is an invitation to fulfill your potential in life. That's the next series. And you could say it the other way around, an invitation to let life fulfill its potential in you. So that's the next series. And it's in the newsletter, you can sign up for it. So let's hear, what's a word that expresses how you're feeling right now?
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Happy.
Grateful.
Relaxed.
Relaxed. Inspired.
Grateful.
Playful.
Helpful.
Happy.
Reassured and supported.
Nourished.
Beautiful.
Really
Grateful.
Nourished.
Yeah, grateful.
Yes, grateful.
Thankful. Grateful.
Supported.
connected.
Thankful. Blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to say it's been a joy to be with everybody here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julian.
Thank you for your generosity.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your generosity.
Thank you,
Yes.
Julian. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Celine.
Celine. Thank you,
For touching
Julian.
us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm.
Everyone, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Lovely to meet you all.
Thank
Yeah.
Until
Mhm.
next time.
Till next
Till
time.
next time, yeah. See you in
Until
October.
next
I mean,
time.
Enjoy your summer.
See you
Yeah.
again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.